Welcome to the Careers by Jen podcast, episode 279. On this episode of the podcast, Jen's topic is why good employees quit. Hint number 1. Anytime someone says, "It's not you, it's me," it's probably you.
You're listening to the Careers by Jen podcast. I'm your host, Jen Swanson. This is the podcast that helps you to get the job, love your work, and advance your career. Careers by Jen is a listener-sponsored podcast, and if you like the content, please consider supporting the show as a patron. You can do so for as little as $1 a month. Head over to CareersbyJenn.com and click on Support to learn more. Have you ever felt like quitting a job? Have you known good people who have left the place you work and you feel disappointed because they were great? They were really good colleagues. Why do good employees quit? That is our topic for today. Hello and welcome to the show where my goal is to help you get the job, love your work, and advance your career and be happier and healthier while you are working. I'm Jen, and this podcast is recorded on the unceded and traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, including the Matsqui, the Kwantlen, the Katzie, the Semiahmoo, and the Stolo First Nations people here on the beautiful west coast of what is also called Canada. I have a huge thank you to make before I get into our topic for today to all of you who helped me to do what I wanted to do and change the name of the YouTube channel. You can now go to YouTube and enter Careers by Jen and you will find it. I still need to change the URL and I have to have the new channel that I migrated to open for 30 days before I can do that. But everything else has been satisfied. So thank you to my friends and listeners and subscribers. I have been creating short-ish video-based content weekly now for about 4 months, since August, and I'm having fun doing it and I'm getting some great feedback. So if you haven't checked it out, please check it out and join the subscription if you haven't yet, because very similar content is over there. The podcast is also over there in audio format, but then there are videos that I've been producing too, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. All right, so why do good employees quit? Well, if you are a manager or a company owner, a business owner, you might want to do a little bit of a gut check on these in case there are areas you can improve upon with your employees. If you are an employee and haven't yet pinpointed why you're feeling dissatisfied or unhappy in your workplace, you might just find the reason here, which then hopefully you can address with your organization so that you don't have to leave or don't feel that you want to. Whatever your situation happens to be, these are good markers to pay attention to, because honestly, the more you know about yourself and why you feel and think the way you do, the easier it is to figure out what to do next. All right, so I have 10 common reasons. I'm sure there are more. I won't have covered everything, but I have 10 common reasons why good employees quit to share with you today. So let's jump in. The very first one is not being appreciated, not being recognized, not having your ideas honored. And that can take a variety of forms. It can be all sorts of different things. Maybe you just don't feel like the extra work that you do is unnoticed. Maybe you have some great ideas and someone else takes credit for them. Maybe your perspective as somebody who's working on the front lines of whatever industry it is you're working in doesn't matter when management or the higher-ups are making decisions. Maybe there's lack of support in what you're doing. Maybe you're feeling you're not being encouraged. Now, this might seem like a no-brainer to some of us, but when people work hard and put their heart and soul into their work and it goes unnoticed, it's pretty defeating. when ideas go unheard, when great ideas are not supported, when there's no incentive to put in your extra, to put it out your creativity, to put in your extra sweat, blood, and tears, when there's no sense of team, this can feel really deflating. And I've worked in situations like that, thankfully not very many. And where I work at the present moment is completely not like that. I feel extremely supported and encouraged and appreciated in the work that I'm doing now. And it makes me want to do even more. And that's the thing about it. If people feel like their ideas are worthy, if people feel like they are being listened to, if people feel like they have opportunities to share their thoughts, it can advance the whole team. It can advance the entire community. I remember working in the hospital at one time and trying to get together a group of all of the people in the different departments that did the work that I did, to have some kind of a group that met on a monthly basis and get some management support, because decisions were being made and things were changing. And it was right around the time, can you believe it, that we were computerizing? It feels like ages ago. But people were upset with different departments because different departments were doing things in certain ways. And I thought it would be a good idea to get everybody together and have conversation. Like, why do you do this? And this is how it affects our department when you do the things this way. And it was helpful for us to understand why that department was doing things a certain way so that we wouldn't be frustrated anymore. So sometimes it was just support of each other going forward as a team that was important. And so that was one way of gaining that, was to have conversation about, well, why is it that you do it that way? And if I can understand why you need to do it that way, then maybe I can help, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a disconnect between company values and the values of the employee. And this comes back to the mission and vision, and whether or not the mission statement and the vision statement of the organization is actually what's happening on the ground, because sometimes they're written and they look all nice and fancy and they might be framed on a wall, but they're not actually what people are doing on the ground. And so that's an important thing, is if what your values are and your expectations are as far as the mission of what it is that you're doing, who you're serving, and what you're doing your work for, right? This comes down to purpose. If that doesn't align with your own values, your own mission, your own purpose, then you can really feel the discord. It can be really uncomfortable to work somewhere where you don't believe in what it is you're doing. When you feel bad about what it is you're doing, or you feel slimy, or you feel like it's not matching your sense of who you are. And you know what? We grow, we change, we learn, we evolve. We're never the same person. Physically, mentally, spiritually, we're never the same person from one time to the next, 1 year to the next. Oh my goodness, your cells die and rejuvenate, right? We're actually physically not the same people. We're also mentally and spiritually not the same people when we do the work and when we grow. And so if you are working for the kind of company that is doing something in the world that works with your values and your belief systems, then great. And if it's not, then you might find a discord, a disharmony. It could be political, it could be environmental, it could be ethical. There are many, many reasons why your values and belief systems would not align with that of the companies anymore, or at all. And so that's something to pay attention to when you're going into a position in a company, is what do they stand for? What are they doing in the world? And it could be that you grow apart, just like relationships sometimes happen, that you're no longer going in the same direction. And employees do leave for these reasons. Employees do move on to find something that is a better fit, especially when they get to the stage in life where you're thinking more about purpose rather than just the money that you're making and the things that you're buying, right? When you get beyond that and you're thinking a little bit more about what am I doing to serve in the world. All right, that's the second one. The third one is good employees leave when there's little or no advancement or learning opportunities, right? When you get bored. Many employees want to learn, want to grow, want to move up or into new areas. Now, not everybody does. Some people are really happy with same. And they spend their energy and their time outside of work, growing and learning and having those opportunities. But because if you're working full time, that's a lot of your life spent at work. And so if you're stuck, if you're stagnant, if it's exactly the same all the time and you don't find comfort and satisfaction in that, then it could be that it's time to move on. And employees do leave for that. Again, this depends on your personality. Sometimes there's a disconnect between the employee's own goals and aspirations and the goals of the organization. This is sort of overlaps with what I was talking about before. So if the company is going in a different direction, if there's no advancement, if there are no opportunities, then I know for myself, I get bored. I get bored, and if there's nowhere to go except make a lateral move, that doesn't give me any more knowledge, any more information, any more opportunities for depth, for learning, for growth, then I get bored. I am grateful that the work that I'm called to do now is exceedingly creative in all aspects. Coaching just lights me up. There's nothing I love more than to see somebody else step into their success and for me to sort of shepherd them toward that and support them and encourage them into that kind of a space. That is the best. Doing the YouTube videos, doing podcasts, that is creative work. And my ministry, of course, is exceedingly creative. There are always things in leadership, always things in creativity, always things that we are learning. Oh my goodness, especially this year with having to take everything online. It's been quite a steep learning curve in how to do church virtually during a pandemic, right? So there is no chance at this point, anyway, in any of the work that I'm doing that I feel like I am stuck. But you might feel that way in the work that you are doing. And so when there is little or no advancement or learning opportunity, then people can decide to leave. The fourth thing is when they feel bored or underutilized. And again, these sort of overlap each other. When people have lots of skill and capacity and that isn't being put to use, that can be really soul-sucking, right? When you're not challenged, when you have all these things that you can do and you are hired into something that doesn't require require you to use much of that, then you can feel underutilized. You can feel like you have all these things to give and you're not able to. And that can also lead to feeling stuck. So boredom is definitely a reason why people leave. The fifth thing is when there is a toxic environment, when there is an unhealthy workplace culture, when there's lots of fighting or competition to the point of meanness, when there are nasty employees, when there is bullying happening. And I do corporate training I used to. I hopefully will still do that. But again, not a lot of people are having corporate trainers come in right now, in person anyways. And my goodness, I've had people come to me after my presentations and talk to me quietly about the workplace culture, and some of the places are fantastic, and you get that vibe when you walk in. You just know it's a great place to work, and it's like, oh, I'd love to work here if I knew anything about this industry. But other places have this I don't know, this bad energy, and people are unhappy and people are pressured, and maybe the money's really good, and so it's really hard for them to be able to leave to find something equivalent. But people's lives are sometimes really, really challenged by fear, by oppression, by bullying, by terrible, terrible toxic work situations. And it's more prevalent than you might first think. Game playing nasty games that make people's lives miserable, fear, mistrust, danger. And that is not nice. That affects your health. That affects your family relationships. That affects your mental wellness, your spiritual being. It affects everything. So when people are able to get out of that and leave, it's like this weight is just lifted right off from the experience. And having been in a toxic workplace environment, I know very well the relief, and it takes guts, and it takes courage, and it takes fortitude, and it takes lots and lots of support and help to be able to leave. But oh my goodness, it's life-saving for some people when they can finally manage to make a move. So good people leave places, not necessarily because of the actual work, but sometimes because of the people that are in the workplace. And this again bleeds into the next topic, which is number 6, where there is bad management, where there is micromanagement, where there is lame management, like lack of management, where there is poor communication. Sometimes it's not the whole organization that's bad. Sometimes it's not the actual work itself. It's one or two people who are in power. Power does such strange and awful things to people, right? And sometimes you step back and you think, this, in the grand scheme of the universe, is not a big, powerful position that you are wielding. And yet it seems to be exceedingly important to you to be this all-powerful person in this tiny, tiny corner of the world. I don't know. It's really challenging. So when and I've had excellent managers in my career, excellent managers who I look up to and still think about and still try to emulate. And then I've had horrific managers, not very many, but at least a couple. And then some that just don't know how to manage. And so they're not mean, and they're not nasty, and they're not toxic. They just don't know what they're doing. And that can be frustrating and a challenge as well. Then you have people who check every tiny single little thing you do, micromanaging, which can be exhausting when, you find yourself saying quite often, I know how to do my job. Just let me do it. So those are some of the reasons that people might feel like they need to make a move. Number 7 has to do with people feeling a lack of respect, and when people don't trust either the colleagues that they work with or the management. This is similar to the first one about being underappreciated, but it could go beyond not being recognized to the point of being disrespected. When employees don't trust each other, don't trust that the management listens to them, don't trust the sharing of material, of information, then you have a situation where things devolve into the toxicity. So if people aren't respecting you, if they're not trusting you, if they're not trusting you to do the work that you're doing, then we go back into that micromanagement, that sometimes is somebody not believing that you can do what you say you can do, what you're trained to do, what you know you can do. And that can be an issue as well. So that is a reason that good people quit sometimes. The 8th thing is when people feel overworked or stressed, or the expectations are too high, or there is too much change and not enough good change management. If if an employee feels like there's not enough help, if there is too much to do, not enough time, if it's super stressful, if the person is expected to work all the time, getting phone calls and emails and messages even after they're finished their workday, this expectation to be on all the time can be a problem in some places. Where there is so much change and not a lot of support in how that change is to happen, or whether or not the change is even a good idea. And sometimes that can be a challenge too. I know working in organizations that take things online, it can be hard for people to keep up when the hospital systems were going way back when from paper systems to computer systems. That took a long time. It took a lot of training. It took years, actually, for everyone to be comfortable using this new technology when it used to be, a pen and a paper. We went from fax machines to computer reports, right? We went from triplicate, remember those carbon, maybe you're too young, but the carbon copies. I used to write things, and a carbon copy would go on a peg at the desk when the blood was taken, and then the requisition would go down to the laboratory, and then when the results were back, you'd get the same ticket. It was a system that worked, but heaven forbid you lose a piece of paper, one of those papers, one of those copies. There was no computer system to track it. So it's much better now, but it was a real transition, and it was really hard for people to manage on that scale. So what is happening with change? What is happening with how much work you're expected to do and how stressed you feel as an employee? The ninth thing to talk about today is good employees quit when they're not paid enough. And, sometimes this is not out of any animosity. This is not because there's something wrong per se in the organization. It's just that a better offer, a shiny new thing comes along, better offer. And it might not even be your pay. It might be benefits. It might be that this new position is a 5-minute bike ride from home. It might be that there is a flexible work schedule, so you can start and end at different times. Maybe there are remote learning or remote working opportunities. Who knows, right? If everything else was good and they had a little bit more money or a little bit more flexibility, maybe they would stay. But there are things more important than money. But if everything else is fairly equal, and a higher paying opportunity arises, that can very often be a very valid reason for people to move on and to leave. The 10th thing is when changes in life circumstances happen. So people move houses and move to different cities. People change provinces, change states, change countries. Employees have families sometimes and follow spouses or partners to different places, start new relationships. People retire. Sadly, people get sick. People go back to school. People feel called. I can't speak. People feel called elsewhere. I was working at a fantastic church back in, I think this happened in 2013, but I was working at a fantastic church with I was a student at the time, minister at the time. I was working with an amazing lead minister who's a dear friend, and a fantastic music team. There was absolutely no reason for me to leave this organization. I was the children, youth, and family minister. I had fantastic teenagers I was working with who I loved dearly, and it was really truly a dream place to learn and to grow and to sort of get my chops, as it's said. However, I felt called elsewhere. I felt, after 3 years of doing that work, I felt like I needed to expand and deepen and learn and grow. And to do that, I needed to move. And it wasn't anything anybody in that organization. It had nothing to do with them. It was all about my sense of calling, my sense of, children and youth ministry is amazing and fun and wonderful. And I want to do something else. And I'm being called to do something else. And so it was a bit scary because I left without having anywhere to go. And one of the things I did is I gave a lot of notice. I gave 6 months of notice. And my learning goal in that time was to learn how to leave well. Because you can leave well and you can leave badly when you leave a job. So I resigned. I wouldn't say I quit, but I resigned to open myself up to new opportunity and new possibility. And I gave a good long time for that to happen, and was able to put plans in place and was able to help people make space for someone new and someone with different skills and different abilities to come in. Which did happen. So, and I left and had a few job interviews and then landed where I am now. And I'm very grateful for that. So there wasn't anything wrong at the place that I left. And I didn't actually quit. I resigned and gave notice. And it was a faith-filled thing that I was doing. And the person that is in the place that I was is amazing and wonderful and extremely gifted and has way more cool toys than I ever did. So she's having fun doing that and has been there for quite a number of years now. And I am absolutely loving where I am now. So, people move on to new adventures. And so that is another reason why good people leave, is because they are seeking adventure and finding new opportunities elsewhere. So, my friend, these are the 10 of the most common reasons that I could find on why good people quit. And I hope this was at least interesting, if not helpful. I invite you to let me know why you have quit, if you ever have. And you can do that on any of the social media platforms, so Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or YouTube at CareersbyJenn, or you can do it. You can do that by email at info@careersbyjenn.com. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, this is Jen Swanson wishing you a peaceful and healthy rest of your week. You've been listening to Careers by Jen with Jen Swanson. If you like what you heard, please share this. If every single person listening today shared this episode with just one friend, our audience would be twice as big just like that. And the more people we can help with our content, the better. So help out a friend and help grow our audience by sharing this show with someone you know who would benefit from the content. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that, and together we can make a difference. Until next time, take good care.